So Higurashi Satsu has come to an end, and I was actually told, I think it was either last week or the week before in the Higurashi video, that apparently the manga version of Satsu is actually in like a brand new arc, something that the anime never touched upon. So building up to this episode, I was pretty convinced that it was going to go one of two ways. Either A, they were going to go with my original thought that they were going to end it, and then maybe lead into a remake of Umineko, something like that. Or two, it would have a surprise third season. And it ended, and there's no announcement of anything more. It's kind of a mixed bag for me, because I don't leave this episode or season of Satsu saying, I feel like I wasted my time, or I feel betrayed, or this or that. It's more so, I look at that one episode 3-4 weeks back, I forget which one, it was the one that I was pretty harsh in the video about, where you could have took that time, removed it, and just fleshed out certain things like the 5 failed loops. There was room to flesh out what happened there, and honestly I feel like we missed a conversation with Rika and Sadako where she calls her out for killing so many people, which yes, we know the original Sadako was quote-unquote dead for a long time and she was finally released at the end of this episode. But there was never that conversation. I feel like in between the moments of them laying in the river, and basically they're just kind of like, they finally got it out of their system. They've needed that for dozens and dozens and dozens of years. But they finally did that, and the car ride home of them kind of like forgiving each other, or more or less just coming back together. I feel like there was a conversation missing there, where Rika says, hey, I made some mistakes. I dragged you to a school you didn't want to go to. You were dragging me to a village I didn't want to, but I never killed people repeatedly and turned to an evil psycho witch. Like, that conversation never happened, so for me, that was the one thing that I really wish was different. But on the flip side, and I will say this, once that ending song kicked in, where you had the beautiful, just like the leaves and everything was just flying in the air, it was like this very satisfying scene where you get a montage, you get to see Sanako's brother wake up, something that I actually thought that's what they were going to build up to for so long, that once everything hit the fan and she didn't go into that van, that they were actually going to bring her to the brother. But the fact that he did wake up, I think, is nice. The fact that they committed to the uncle staying good and changed is nice. You get to see a perfect ending, but the thing that was lingering for me, the song de-stressed me or put me in a very mellow state. I swear to God, if you ever have a shitty day, find the song that they used at the end of the episode and listen to that shit. Your mood's gonna change tenfold. When the witch released Sadako and said, you know what, I don't like this, I'm gonna go chase after Rika, and I said to myself out loud, no one around me, I said, see, I told you, because the conversation never happened. There was never remorse about killing and looping that many times. But when she did the snap, when she released her, and the original Sadako that came to be, the one that we knew and loved for so long, was there, and she went back to herself, I did feel satisfied. And I don't think this will be an episode that will satisfy a majority of people, because I really feel like fan expectations are going to be very divided. I've seen people say that this is actually just a setup for some of the other authors' works, that these are there's references in here, maybe that's all they were originally meant to be, were references. People were convinced that there was going to be more anime episodes, either continuing on into next season, or there'd be a surprise third season. I remember, there was quite a handful of videos throughout Satsu where I said, honestly, I think episode 15 is just going to end it. And I didn't have, anyone agree with that. Everyone was like, no, there's going to be more. So for me, not looking at the response as of yet, because it's pretty early since it's been released, and I try my best not to be influenced by what people are saying, I really feel like this episode won't satisfy people, but if it does, hey, that's great. You want people to be happy with an ending rather than being like, oh, I hated the ending, so I want other people to hate it, right? You want people to be satisfied, because being angry isn't a fun thing. But I will say, I do see where I would have changed things, right? I would have expanded the 5 failed loops. I know there's a lot of people saying that, oh, most of it was just a recap of Go. I disagree with that, mainly because when you do see it from Sadako's perspective, it does feel like a different loop. It's just like when we got into the last 5 episodes, that's when there was literally an episode that 3/4 of it was actually just Go scenes with no deviations. Stuff like that is an issue to me, and you could have used that time to further flesh out the failed loops, where Rika was like, I'm gonna kill myself. And I honestly think there could have been a conversation about, you did some horrible shit, and then that could have planted the seed of doubt in the witch that took over Sadako's body So then when she released that at the end of the episode, you felt like, you know what, maybe forgiveness and the power of friendship, maybe you didn't want it here, even though Higurashi's always been built about that, but it would have been built a bit more organically. But do I leave this episode feeling like I was betrayed or I waste my time? No. No, I've actually seen the original Higurashi since Go ended. I watched it. And I think it's fantastic. And I think there's an argument to be made that maybe this doesn't live up to it in your ways, but I do feel like it does live up to it, and it does different things in different ways when it comes to Go. But yes, Satsu is a mixed bag, but anytime you're dealing with time looping and coming back again, it's never going to live up quite to the original. I mean, I can even think of stuff like Steins Gate Zero for people, but yes, there's improvements that could have been made, and maybe the manga version will actually do that for me. I will honestly say that I'm willing to read the manga version just to see if some of my issues ever get touched upon there, but I still leave feeling like this was a worthwhile experience for me, and it was really fun, and it was easily one of the most entertaining review series I've ever done on the channel. And nothing's ever going to be perfect, and I think when you have something as big as the Higurashi name coming back, it's definitely not going to live up to everyone, especially because I'm still not sure the reason why it was presented the way it was from the beginning, in terms of like what he wanted to do, because I think anyone who was a fan of the original Higurashi, who watched this not weekly and, you know, influenced by other people's opinions, will probably just say, yeah, that was fun. I love the original more, but it was fun. But people watching weekly will be like, oh, so we're getting an Umi Neka? I don't know what that is, but apparently that's leading up to a remake, right? So I think weekly can be a double-edged sword for some people, even myself included, but it was good. I mean, one of the best fight scenes in terms of animated fight scenes I've seen in the past few months. That fist fight had no right to look as good as it did. Like, the first part was really well animated, but then when they got into the different art designs, really well done fight scene, and I think the idea of the miracle does work in a way, because you could argue, I guess, and the way I'm going to argue, is that Hanyu wanted to see a miracle, and it was all depending on which of the two were going to succeed. And because Rika threw away the sword, that kind of was a miracle, meaning she could summon it, and you know, it just kind of works for me in that way, and the idea of her, because she changed so much there, the fact that, you know, Sanako was freed, I think does work. And I do like that the train departing scene where they pretty much were kind of evil eyes at each other, saying that we live forever, we need time apart, and I'm gonna find you, I'll run the opposite direction. Pretty devastating, but I do like the conversation prior to that in the vehicle going home, was when they were saying that, you know, just because you're separated doesn't mean you're not together anymore, kind of like getting that through. So I do think the seeds of doubt were planted in the takeover of Sadako, where she was recognizing that, you know, things, you know, I can't go back to the way it was. I'm not having the evil mother whisper in my ear anymore. So her releasing still does work for me. I just think, had there been a 3 to 5 minute conversation in between all that, to plant the seeds of doubt of, hey, killing a bunch of your friends over and over because you're going to go into a new loop wasn't okay, probably would have made it a bit more of a natural transition. But, I mean, if people are expecting me to rant and say, I hated Satsu or I hated this episode, apologies. If people are going to say, oh, I love this episode, it was the best episode, I wish you loved it more, apologies. For me, it was a fine episode that I loved the last 5 minutes of a hell of a lot. The rest of it served its purpose. I see room for improvement, but it doesn't tarnish my experience of Go and Satsu. I leave feeling satisfied, but seeing the potential of improvement, and maybe that manga version will do it for me. But, you know, there was only one episode of Satsu that truly made me upset, and that was a few weeks back. So, honestly, I feel like I was satisfied this season, and that's just me. No idea what people feel. Probably, if people hate this episode, people will be very, very mad at me for not being more critical from their point of view, but we'll see what it is. I always keep it real on the channel. I say what I feel, and that's how I feel about Satsu. And, you know, if any of the other creators' projects get confirmed someday, I will definitely cover them, unless they turn out to be horrible, because I've heard the Umineko anime that has been made way back in the day wasn't good, so hopefully we'll get a good one someday. But let me know, what did you think? Favorite moment, least favorite moment, whatever you're feeling, let me know down below. Leave a like if you enjoy and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.